Welcome to our channel. I'm really glad you're here. I'm Mike with Zippy Snap, and I hope we can craft a kinder, more creative world together. Today we're going to be making this MLK National Mall March from 1963. So it was the march, not in March, but it was a march on Washington. So it was from August of 1963. And this is where Martin Luther King Jr. went. He went to the Lincoln Memorial, stood on these steps, and delivered his I Have a Dream speech for equal rights and equal treatment. So this is the pool that was there, and then in the distance you can see the National Monument. This is to scale somewhat, except the National Monument's a little bit further away. But this is about how it would have looked back then. And then we have in the center of the pool here, the I have a dream that one day our children will grow up, not defined by their race, but by their character, which is a paraphrase, of course, of Martin Luther King Jr. It's not an exact quote. We don't own his speech. He copyrighted his speech, so we're using a paraphrase, not his exact speech, but I do encourage you to go look and read his speech and listen to his speech because it was a wonderful speech to have, but this is just a paraphrase of it. So a couple things we're going to do is on the difficulty meter, I'd give this a 4 out of 5. This means that this is a challenge craft, but don't worry, we're going to go through it step by step. You can download this craft template from zippysnap.com, and the tools we'll be using today are scissors and tape. So with these tools nearby, let's get to crafting. So it's just 2 pages, but it's very condensed. So you kind of see what the image looks like on our completion badge. That's totally optional. You don't have to do the completion badge. But you do have basically 5 parts. You have the Lincoln Memorial, the Washington Monument, the Lincoln Memorial sitting spot, the Washington Monument sitting spot, and then the center part here where the pool is with the main speech and the sides. So what we're going to start with is we'll start with the second page. It's a little easier to go. And we're going to start cutting. So we're going to cut on the dashed line and the edges of the image. So just come right in here and we're going to cut around. And this is an ideal craft to do, obviously, any time of year, but especially if you're wanting to do something for Martin Luther King Jr.'s holiday, then this would be a wonderful craft to reflect on some of the words he gave about equality and treating everyone the same. And, you know, I think that's a great message that we should still have today. Now there is a tape edge, this light dash line here. Don't cut that line. Just we're gonna cut right along here, and I'll show you kind of where we're gonna head, because that's where these 2 pieces are gonna join up on each side. So we left you a little bit of a edge there. So this also gives you an idea of the scale. If you've been to Washington, D.C. and seen the Lincoln Memorial, you can see, wow, it's really big. It's a big area, and that pool is huge. And so this is built to scale. A couple of caveats is the Washington Monument is a little closer than it really is in real life to the mall, just because I thought that was good. But it is scaled as high as it is versus how long the pool is and everything, and the Lincoln Memorial. The steps to the Lincoln Memorial are about twice the scale high. It doesn't go as high if you were to do this to scale. We're going to now do a cut in and then a cut out on the edges. It's going to make what looks like a T on each side. So just be a little careful here, and this will look, that's so right to about that. It's right there. And then we're going to go flip it the other way and do it the same right there. So that's what we're looking for. And we're going to come do it on the same side, on the same place in this, on the other side. Just what this helps with, why we did this and this way, is it gives it a little bit more stability in the center. And I'll show you what that looks like. So if you flip this over, you can see these edges just get folded in. That's what you're looking at here. Just to kind of give it a little bit more stability right in the center. So we're going to go ahead and fold this. So typically I like to make the craft all together. This time we're going to have to do this center part first. So what we're going to do is I'm going to start by flipping it over, and we're just going to fold these edges in right here. Just fold them in because you see you're going to come this way. Because we're making a three-dimensional object. And then on these edges here, we're going to fold those back. So fold one like that, and then on the little edge, we're going to fold it forward. So if you're keeping with me, hopefully that makes sense. Fold it forward so it looks kind of like that. So again, we're going to come on this edge, we're going to fold this one back, and then we're going to fold the little edge forward. So we're just kind of setting up so it looks almost like a Z maybe. And then again, we're going to fold that edge back and fold the little edge forward. It's hard to see the little edge when you fold it forward, so you kind of gotta, sometimes you can do it on an angle and you can see a little bit better. And we'll fold that back. I totally did that one backwards. You see, sometimes I even get them wrong. So fold that one back and then fold this one forward. Like that. All right. So it kind of looks like this. Now we're going to fold them all back down. You're like, well, why did we just fold all that? Well, it's easier to refold it once the folds are in there. So now we're going to come in here and we're going to fold to the edge of the green. This is going to be the edge of our project. So that's the Martin Luther King Jr. side, and then this is the Zippy Snap side. Just a reminder, you get all your crafts there for free. Okay, so now you have the top, the side, and then the flaps on the bottom. So looks pretty cool. We're going to start taping this puppy together. So the tape edge, you want to line those pieces up, and then if you line them up right here, we're going to just tape it right at the tape edge. Just kind of doing the best I can. It's not going to be precise at this point, because this should be the same width as the top. That's what we're going for. And then same right there. It's okay if it's not perfect. So just maybe pull out just a hair. And we're even wanting to do it down this direction by the fold edges. So there we go. And then this side's gonna, this is why we've pre-folded it, so you can fold that up, and then these little tabs in here, you're gonna want to tape down. And you might have to slide your scissors in there if it goes too far to pull those out. But you just want to tape it like that. This doesn't have to be exactly perfect by any means. So I like to kind of, but this just kind of gives it a little bit of a more stable center. Otherwise, and ta-da! You have the center, and it's a little bit more stable now in the center. So we'll set that aside, and we only have one other piece. So what I like to start with is, let's start with the National Monument. So we're going to cut the bottom here, and we fit a lot of little pieces into here, I can tell you that much. You probably are like, wow, there's a ton. And since it's that way, you're going to see me kind of just cutting in a very tight pattern, which just means like right here, instead of coming over here and trying to cut that, I'm just going to cut around, because I just need to get that out of there, because I don't want to inadvertently or accidentally cut something I didn't mean to cut and have to reprint that page, because I did not come prepared with another printout. I just have that one. That's the only one I have. All right, and you probably want to make sure the dot lines aren't showing, so if you have to cut a little bit of the Washington Monument, that is okay. So there's 4 Washington monuments. So what we're going to do is we're just going to fold them so that there's only one. Oh, wait. Before you do that, you got to cut these little lines right here. Can't believe I didn't tell you that. Like that. Just like that. It's way harder to do that if you do it later. So cut it. Those are going to be a fold, but we're not going to fold it yet. But it's a little easier to see it, and then we're going to do, so now you've seen it fold it now 4 times like that. So the idea is it makes a cube, and we're going to fold this top down a little bit. Don't overfold it because it's hard to get in, and then maybe lay it back up. And then we're going to get kind of a small piece of tape. I'm just going to put it right here in the middle, and I'm actually laying it flat if you can't tell. And then I'm just going to fold it down. It's always easier to tape a 3-dimensional object when it's flat, make sure not to tape down here, below the bottom of the Washington Monument, as we'll need those tabs to go in a different direction. So once you fold it flat, you can then repop it up, and you see it got three-dimensional very quickly. And then we get a very thin piece of tape, and that's actually probably too big. So I'm going to use my scissors carefully. Take that part right there. It's a very little piece of tape. Put it right on this edge. I'm just going to fold it right there. And put that piece of tape somewhere else. So now you have your Washington Monument. So that's pretty cool. So we'll set that aside. Now let's do the same with the Lincoln Memorial. So you can actually see that's Abraham Lincoln inside. That's actually to scale. This is an actual photo of the Lincoln Memorial. So again, since this is just madness right in here, we're just going to cut. Be really careful right there. And real careful right here. It's too close. Really want to make it 2 pages. All right, we're going to cut that out so it's like this. So this is to scale. This is how big the Lincoln Memorial and Washington Monument are next to each other. They were next to each other. So we're going to come in here, and this is the roof. And we're going to cut it like this. This is why it's a challenge right here. This you're seeing the part. There's lots of little cuts. And if you overcut, you're accidentally going to cut the Lincoln Memorial off. So you see I'm just doing real conservative cuts. Have you ever been to Washington, D.C.? I went a long time ago. It's been a while. It's a lot of museums and history, which is interesting, but you don't want to forget the past for sure. But if you're on a vacation, maybe, unless you really like history, there's sad things there, there's happy things there, but a lot of history. And history wasn't always my favorite thing, but there are things that you should know from history, even if it's not your favorite. History is important not to repeat. And then right here on this edge, we're just going to cut straight like that. We'll come in here, and again, we're going to go to Tab City. So one quick trick to get all these tabs, I'm just going to do one big tab cut like this, just like that. And then we're going to have to do sometimes it's a little easier to do all of these just however long you want them, like this. And we'll come back and cut them in the center. So I'm just doing all of these very little cuts, and then like that. To get our scissors in there. And if you cut kind of towards the top of your scissors, I found I have more control. I don't know if you have, but I definitely have found that my control of the scissors is way better when I'm up at this top part of my scissors. So that's why you'll see when I get in here, I bring it I open the scissors way up, and I just very loosely squeeze the scissors because I have so much more control of the scissor. I don't know why, like squeezing my hand when it's way open versus very closed, I just feel like the amount, I can squeeze it very little when when my hands are way open, and I get much more control. All right, so this is the Lincoln Memorial. It's very little, very tiny, and I have very big hands here, so we're gonna just kind of do a little fold there. We need to fold all of these edges. So I'm going to go ahead and start folding the edges, all the white edges, and then we'll fold all these white edges. Actually, don't fold the bottom white edges, just the top. And then we're going to fold right here. So right here, there, and there is going to be the edges of the monument here. So I can see, and right there, it's a little white line if you can't see. So that's what we're going for here. So we'll do the sides first. So what we're going to do is, again, kind of a thinner piece of tape. So put it right there, and then I use my old trick before I make it a three-dimensional object. I'm going to line those two sides up and then fold that right down. So now you have a nice, beautiful cube, and then I'm going to put all these tabs inside that cube. And if you didn't want to cut the tabs, now you could maybe put a piece of tape at the top like that. You can also tape those tabs inside here like this. If I put a piece of tape in there. I'm just gonna do one tab. You could do all three. I'm just gonna I'm gonna make a choice here to do it on the outside because my fingers are just too big to be able to get in there, and it takes a little time. So that's exactly what we're looking for right there. So with these bottom tabs here, this is the monument. Now pay attention, this is the back side, there's nothing there. And then on the front side, you'll see there's the statue of Abraham Lincoln right there. So you need to pay attention to the front side here and the back side because you'll want the front side to go towards the steps. So which one do we want to start with, the monument or the memorial? Let's start with the memorial. We just did the memorial. That's probably the easier one to do if you had to choose. Maybe not. There's our optional completion badge you can always put together to memorize, to memorialize that you've done this project. I'm just doing a loose cut to begin because, like I said, so we're just going to now cut along the image, and then if you see these tabs pop up away here, we're going to cut those like this. And then right here, instead of coming in here, I'm going to come over this way because it's too tight of an angle for me to get like that. And we're going to just cut along the edge. Now don't cut these white lines. These white lines are going to be fold lines. So you'll remember I left this little cut right here. I figured I could come in and get it. I like to cut both sides like that, and then I can come in from this edge once they're both cut and get it out of the way. Way easier than me trying to be a superhero and get it while in the bigger cuts. So again, I'm just going to cut to right here, and then we'll come back for that, this little edge that I'm leaving off. And then same here, as I'm just going to come over here and finish this cut out. Just that cut. And we'll finish this cut right here. So I still left two little cuts here. This is why it's a challenge, this part right here. These are very little cuts, but they're basically they're tape tabs. So you can tape it out. So what this is this part right here. And it's just kind of laying open. We're gonna go ahead though and cut the black part out. So you can just kind of do something like that. Be careful of your fingers, and then just cut around the black edge. And it's okay if you overcut it a little bit on this one, because this is the exact size of the Lincoln Memorial. And you see there's the steps we were talking about that I said you want the Abraham Lincoln to face the steps. If you don't do it that way, then he'll be facing the back side. Alright, before we put Abraham Lincoln in there though, we're going to start folding. And this just says Lincoln Memorial. This was May 30th, 1922 when I believe it was introduced to the public. So a little history about the Lincoln Memorial. And then we're going to fold it right there a little bit, just a light fold at the stairs. And you'll see there's a little white line here. We're going to fold it backwards. And I didn't quite get it. I got it way too aggressive. I folded it too far down. All right. And then this one here, you'll see it's coming out. So we're going to fold that out. That's how we're doing it. Try to keep the bottom edge there. And when you're folding it, make sure this bottom edge is lined up with this bottom edge. That's the trick to this one. All right. So now it'll look kind of like that, and then we're going to just fold these little edges in, and then poke them back out here, just a small bit. All right. So it's going to look kind of like this. Doesn't look like a lot at this moment. You just kind of you got to trust me on this one. So we'll fold these little white tabs in. So this is where those white tabs are actually going to come make a big difference. So we fold those white tabs in, And then I'm going to put a piece of tape on this white tab. I'm going to get a bigger piece because you wouldn't be able to get that. So we put the white tab in like this, and then you're going to want to hold the tape, and with this other hand, I'm just going to bring it so that these two are lined up height-wise, and then you can tape it down. So you see that's kind of what you're doing. We'll do it on the other side. Again, putting the tape on the white tab, leaving my finger on the tape, and then I'm lining these two sides up. And then once I feel like they're lined up, and then I'm pushing my thumb down and pulling my finger off the tape. So, and in fact, that didn't even lay it out nicely, so I'm going to pull the tape back off and do it one more time. And now I laid it a little bit better. And then what we're going to do is, there's no other way to do this other than put some tape right there on that edge. Try to line these two edges up. That's what we're going for. And I'll do it this way, the other way. You can do it either way. Just want to line these two edges up, fold the tape down, and now you have your monument hill. So the Lincoln Memorial is up on a hill, so you can see it. So we want to put the Lincoln Memorial on top of that hill. So this is the lower side, as you can see, and the upper side, the back, obviously it's the date on it. So on the back, we want the side without Abraham Lincoln. We want the Lincoln on the front. So we're going to just kind of slide him in like that. And then once he's upside down, we're going to take a piece of tape and just kind of fold it in. Now you don't really want to see any of the memorial inside of here, so if you're starting to see blue, you maybe have taped too much. So again, we'll take some more tape. And you can see a little bit of where that blue is underneath there. So we're just taping those little tabs down that we had left. We got one more tab right there. Boom. And now that's pretty cool. So now you have the Lincoln Memorial right there. So you can see it on the top. It's on a hill. So that side is done. So let's do the monument. So I'm going to go ahead, cut out the monument. So the Washington Monument has its own side. So very similar. So kind of like what I told you before, I'm not going to overcut into that area just yet. That's right behind my scissor blade because that's a tough one. And then when you get to these, the best way to do it is to come from outside. And don't overcut. So that's why I'm getting it further up. You don't want to get in there accidentally and just cut your grass. It's kind of an odd angle, I know. And then that one, I'm going to skip that little wedge for the moment, and I'll come back to it. All right, so now we'll come back to this little wedge, cut the wedge out. And same right here. The wedge out. And whenever you're crafting, don't feel like you can't kind of craft the way you want to craft. So like I'm going to come all the way in here right now, cut it to how I want it, but then I'm going to cut, and I'm not going to address that little cutout that I need to do. It's not time for it. I can come back like now would be a good time. I can come back, do these cuts. I like to do the cuts on both sides like that, because then with that, once that piece is moving a little bit easier, you can see it's just easier to get that piece. And then if I need high control, like right here where I'm doing these pivots, I like to get really high up in the scissors. I'm going to do the pivot again. And then we just got the base here. So the Washington Monument, it took a while to build. I'll put it this way. It was announced and it took a while to be open, I guess. It was like started and stopped. And again, I'm not a big history person, but I do know, I think it finally opened in 1885, but it was started a long time before that. Oh, and then we just have this last part right here, this real tight. There we go. All right, so now we're gonna do the same thing. We're just gonna fold right there, and then we're gonna fold where that white edge is, and fold where this white edge is. And this one's a little easier because it's flat. So the Washington Monument in our diorama is at the same level as the main portion of the diorama or scene. So the other one, the Lincoln Memorial, had steps, so it got a little bit harder to do. So again, we're going to fold this edge here, fold this forward, and then just unfold it. Fold this down. And I think that's all the folds we had to do right there. Right there. So good. Great job, guys. So now we're going to do the tape. So this one's a little easier, like I said, because of that, how it's constructed. So I'm going to put a little fold on this bottom of the tape, this edge. I'm just going to bring it in and try to line it up as best I can. Put a piece of tape there. And then just for a little bit more support, I'll put a piece of tape way up here. And we're going to cut that tape. You know, I was getting excited. We need to cut this little black piece out. It's easier to do it before you did what I just did. But I got excited. I saw the project coming together. I was like, oh, wow, it's coming together. So we're going to cut the black piece out. Again, you can cut a little bit more if you need be. You can see it's still possible to cut it if you're already taped it. It's just a little weirder. Everything's a little bit more stiff. So paper's not as forgiving, but that's what you want to do right there. And now might actually be a better time before I close that wing in to put the monument in. So we're going to put this monument through here. So you're just going to push it through, but don't push it all the way through. And then when you come here, just open these tabs up like this. And there's no front of this monument, so there's just, it's really just four sides. So you can kind of, you don't have to worry about which side's the front like you do with the Lincoln Memorial. And then you get one big piece of tape. Once you feel like that's all secure, and you're just going to put that one big piece of tape right there. I'll put a second piece there, just on the bottom. And now it's standing up, and we're going to finish that flap. So let's do this flap now. And you could have done that later. I thought that step would be a little easier right now. So we're going to line that up and then push the piece of tape down. And like I like to show is there's a lot of ways to do it. A lot of different ways. You can do it whatever way is easiest for you. And then we have these two little white tabs. Those are just going to go right here. So on this tab, we're just going to try and line these up a little bit. And that's kind of what we're looking for. Same on this tab. Right there. Easy enough. And now you have the Washington Monument part. So on the speech, from this side here will be where the monument is, or the memorial, and then this side will be the Washington Monument. So what we're going to do is these are designed to slide in. So if you take all these tabs, put the tabs in, that's what we're trying to do. And then once you feel there's a little white line, you can see it right here, that's about where you want this to be. And these images line up. And it might be easier, quite honestly, if you just hold it like that. So once you feel like you got the image kind of where you want it, which for me is about right there. I'm holding it still, put a piece of tape there, and we'll worry about the flaps later because those flaps were not going where I wanted them to. And that one piece of tape is going to be a good whole piece of tape. It's just kind of keeping that right where I want everything to be. And then we're going to bring this little tab here. And we want the bottom of the tab and the top of the tab to, or the bottom of the tab and this other tab to be about the same height, elevation, you know. That's what we're aiming for if we can. This one looks like it might be a little bit more difficult for me. I don't know why. So we're just gonna, there we go. So I got a little more control there, and boom, you see it's now on a hill. go. So that side's done. So now we're going to do the same on this side. So I'm going to get a piece of tape ready, and I'm going to do exactly what we did last time, which is try to line the pieces of white up. Maybe get my hand under there and get that white lined up. All right, that's lined up. I'm now pinching it right here, coming into the other side, putting that piece of tape. And because the National Monument's there, it's kind of wanting to not lay flat for me. So we're going to just come in here, put that piece of tape there, and then we got one for this side here. So I'm going to flip it around. Try to push those two together like that. The nice thing about paper, you can kind of bend it and then you can unbend it. So, and sometimes you can kind of see it's making a little funny wave here. It might make sense to put a piece of tape on the top, just like right here. So that way it's there. We'll just have a little dip in ours. But there you go. You now have the Lincoln Memorial on this side, the reflecting pool here, and the Washington Monument on that side. And there is your 3D diorama from the August 28th, 1963 March on Washington, Civil Rights. So thank you so much for crafting with me today. I hope it brought you joy and helped your creativity grow. Always remember that you matter and you are valued. I look forward to creating our next craft together very soon. Goodbye.